I met Miles during my freshman year of college, on an autumn afternoon when the campus was dyed gold by falling maple leaves. I remember it vividly because it was the first day I realized that leaving home and stepping into a completely new world wasn't as scary as I'd thought. Miles sat next to me in Intro to American Literature, wearing a faded gray hoodie with worn cuffs, smiling at me as if we'd known each other for ages. "Mitchell, right?" he asked, glancing at my name scribbled messily on my notebook. I nodded. "Yeah. And you're?" "Miles." Just that. A name. But later, I understood that some names enter your life and stay for a long time, whether you want them to or not. We became friends so naturally that I didn't even notice the exact moment it started. Studying together in the library until late, complaining about endless essays, eating cheap pizza at midnight in the dorm. Miles was the kind of person who softened the air around him. He talked just enough, laughed just enough, and always listened in a way that made you feel important. And me, Mitchell, I was the one who overthought everything. I analyzed every glance, every silence. And maybe that's why I was the first to realize our friendship wasn't as simple as it had been at the beginning. I realized it one evening early in sophomore year, as we walked back from the library. The air was colder than I'd expected, wind whipping through the bare trees. Miles draped his jacket over me without asking. It was a small, ordinary gesture. But when his familiar laundry scent enveloped me, my heart raced so fast I had to fake a cough to hide my embarrassment. I told myself, it's just friendship, Mitchell. Don't complicate things. But emotions don't listen. Miles had a girlfriend for a short time. Her name was Hannah, a communications major, pretty and outgoing. I acted happy for him, genuinely congratulating him. But every time I saw him texting her while sitting next to me, it felt like someone was squeezing my chest. I hated myself for it. Hated the jealousy. Hated the selfishness. And most of all, I hated that I had no right to feel that way. Everything changed that night. The one night that altered our friendship. It was a weekend night, a few days after Hannah and Miles broke up. I didn't ask why. I just knew Miles looked more tired than usual. He knocked on my door around 11 at night, holding 2 cans of beer. "Drink with me?" he asked, his voice slightly hoarse. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Come in." We sat on the floor of my room, leaning against the bed, playing soft music. The atmosphere between us was different. Not tense, but not entirely comfortable like before. There were longer silences than usual, sentences left hanging. "Mitchell," Miles said, staring into the space ahead. "Have you ever felt like you're not the person everyone thinks you are?" I turned to look at him. The yellow light cast shadows on his face, highlighting the dark circles under his eyes. My heart sank. "Yes," I answered honestly. "Almost all the time." Miles smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. He took a long swig of beer, then set the can down. "I've tried," he continued. "Tried to be the version I think is right. But the more I try, the more lost I feel." I didn't know what to say. I just knew I didn't want Miles to feel so alone. So I placed my hand on the back of his. A light, brief touch, but he didn't pull away. We looked at each other. This time, I couldn't pretend it was just the gaze of 2 friends. Something was building between us, fragile but intense, like a thread that could snap with one touch. "Mitchell," Miles whispered. I don't remember how long I thought before leaning toward him. Maybe I didn't think at all. It was instinct. It was emotions pent up for too long finally finding release. When our lips met, the world went silent. The kiss wasn't rushed, wasn't clumsy. It was slow, trembling, full of hesitation. I could feel Miles' heartbeat through the suffocating closeness. He exhaled softly, and I knew this moment had crossed the boundary we tried to maintain. I should have stopped, but I didn't, because in that instant, I understood that our friendship, no matter how beautiful, was no longer intact. And tonight would be the start of something both sweet and painful. I don't know how long the kiss lasted. I only know that when we pulled apart, the air in the room seemed thick, as if one strong movement could shatter everything. Miles was still so close, close enough that I could see his eyes wavering, both fearful and yearning. "I'm sorry," I blurted out almost immediately. The apology came out of habit, as if I'd done something irreparably wrong. Miles frowned. Why are you sorry? I couldn't answer. Because I was afraid of losing him. Because I was afraid I'd ruined the one sure thing in my college life. Because I was afraid that tomorrow morning, Miles would see me as a mistake. Miles stood up first, pacing a few steps in the small room, then turned back to me. Mitchell, he said slowly, I don't regret it. Those words made my heart ache in a strange way, both relieved and panicked. But we're friends, I said, my voice lower than usual. At least, we were. Miles sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm trying to understand this too, but if we pretend nothing happened, I can't do that. We sat back down on the floor, this time not too close, but not far enough for things to return to normal. The beer had gone flat, the music had stopped at some point. Only our steady breathing remained, and the tangled thoughts neither of us voiced. I think I knew, Miles said after a silence. Knew why Hannah and I didn't work. She didn't do anything wrong. It's just, I didn't feel complete. I swallowed hard. Miles, if you're saying what I think you're saying, I'm not sure who I am, he interrupted, his gaze determined but trembling. But I know one thing. When I'm with you, I don't have to force myself. Those words hit me in the deepest place. Years of hiding, nights wondering if anyone could see the real me without turning away. And now that person was sitting in front of me. We didn't kiss again that night. Instead, we talked about childhood, family expectations, the fear of rejection. I told Miles I'd known I liked boys since I was 16, but I'd never dared tell anyone. He listened, really listened, the way he always did. In the end, Miles slept over in my room. Nothing beyond boundaries. We lay on opposite sides of the bed, backs turned. But I knew neither of us slept. I could feel his presence, close enough that turning over would mean touching. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains, gentle yet cruel. Reality crashed in with the daylight. Miles sat up first, slipping on his shoes in silence. We'll talk again, right? He asked, hand on the doorknob. I nodded. Yeah, definitely. But saying it was easier than doing it. In the days that followed, things between us became awkward. Neither avoided the other, but neither initiated like before. We still sat next to each other in class, still ate lunch together. But there was an invisible distance we both felt. Every accidental brush of hands startled me. Every lingering glance made my heart race. I didn't know what Miles was thinking. I only knew I was stuck between hope and fear. Part of me wanted to move forward, to name the emotion that had ignited that night. The other part wanted to go back to the old Mitchell, the safe friend who didn't demand. Things continued like that until a mutual friend's birthday party. About 2 weeks later. Alcohol, music, laughter. I drank more than usual, enough to thin my defenses. I saw Miles standing alone on the balcony. I followed him out. The night air was cold and clear. The city twinkled with lights in the distance. Miles didn't turn when I stood beside him, but he knew I was there. We can't keep going like this, he said, his voice low. I know. So what do you want, Mitchell? The question hung in the air. I looked at Miles, at the face that had become too familiar, and realized that in some moments in life, if you're not honest, you'll regret it forever. I want you, I said, slowly but clearly. But I'm afraid of losing you. Miles turned to look at me, his eyes softening. Me too. And I understood that the one night hadn't just changed our friendship. It had opened a new path, beautiful but full of risks, that neither of us could turn back from as if we'd never walked it. We stood on the balcony for a long time, long enough for the music from the apartment behind us to become something distant and faint. That night, I don't remember how much I drank. I only remember my mind being frighteningly clear. What I said to Miles was real. No beating around the bush, no hiding. And maybe that's what made him look at me in a way I'd never seen before, the look of someone facing an unavoidable choice. I don't know where to start, Miles said, leaning his hands on the railing. I've never thought I'd feel this way about a close friend. You're not the only one, I replied, smiling faintly, but trembling inside. We didn't say anything else on the balcony. Miles offered to walk me back to the dorm because I'd had a bit too much. On the way, our shoulders brushed a few times. Neither pulled away. Those small touches carried a charge that made me struggle to keep my breathing steady. That evening, Miles didn't come into my room. He just stood outside the door, looking at me for a moment, then said, "Give me some more time. Okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, I can wait." But waiting is never easy. The following weeks dragged on slowly. Miles started missing more group hangouts. He said he was busy with studies, with internships. I believed him, or tried to. I didn't want to be the one pressuring him, making him feel forced to choose a label or an admission when he wasn't ready. But I couldn't deny the feeling of being left behind. Some days, I'd sit in the library, staring at the empty seat next to me, feeling empty inside. Some nights, I'd open my phone, type a message to Miles, then delete it. I didn't know what right I had to demand, when things between us still lacked a clear definition. Until one rainy afternoon. I'd just gotten out of class when I received a message from Miles. "Can you meet me? Right now." I didn't think. I just grabbed my jacket and ran out of the building. We met under the awning of the student center, rain falling so heavily that the world around us blurred. Miles stood there, hair wet, eyes red, looking like he'd rushed over. "What's wrong?" I asked, my heart pounding. Miles didn't answer right away. He just looked at me, long and hard, as if memorizing every feature of my face. "I talked to my parents," he said finally. I froze. "About what?" "About me. About not being sure who I am." His voice trembled. "They don't understand. At least not now." I stepped closer, ignoring the rain splashing my face.
"I'm sorry."
Miles shook his head. "It's not your fault." But I realized something. I can't keep pretending. Not with them and not with myself. Rain fell on our shoulders, freezing cold. But in that moment, I'd never felt Miles closer to me. "I like you, Mitchell," Miles said, straightforward enough to make me hold my breath. "Not just as a friend. And I'm scared. Scared of so many things. But I'm more scared of losing you." My heart felt like it shattered and reformed. I reached out, hesitating for a second, then placed my hand on his cheek. He didn't pull away. This time, when we kissed, there was no hesitation. The rain, the noise, the whole world seemed to dissolve. That kiss wasn't like the first night. It was more certain, more determined, like an irrevocable admission. We started being together from then on, though neither said it out loud. Not public, no labels. Just study evenings that stretched into watching movies on my bed, sneaky handholds under the cafeteria table, hurried hugs in empty hallways. But that intimacy came with constant worry. Every time Miles got a call from his family, I saw him close off. Every time friends teased about dating, he just smiled it off. I wondered, am I waiting for something Miles can never give? That question grew in me day by day, night by night. And I knew sooner or later we'd have to face it. That moment came one late night, as we lay beside each other, the bedside lamp casting shadows on the ceiling. "Miles," I said softly, breaking the silence. "What do you think we are?" Miles was quiet for a long time, long enough that I started regretting asking. "I don't want to lose you," he said, his voice low. "But I'm not brave enough yet to tell the world." For the first time since we'd been together, I felt a clear crack. I turned my face away, trying to hide the rising emotions. "Maybe," I said quietly, "we don't want the same things." Miles gripped my hand tighter, but the silence between us then was heavier than any words. After that night, something between us shifted. Not abruptly, but like a small crack in glass. At first hard to notice, but every touch felt sharp and cold. Miles was still with me, still slept over, still kissed me every morning before class. But I started noticing he always avoided questions longer than a few sentences, gazes too deep, moments that forced facing the future. And I wasn't good at pretending. I started getting jealous. Jealous of Miles' straight friends who could throw an arm around him in the quad without thinking. Jealous of the future stories he told, internships, jobs, big cities where I had no place, or if I did, it was so vague it couldn't be named. One afternoon, we had our first fight. Not over anything big. I just saw Miles laughing with a girl from his biology class. Intimate in a way that twisted my heart. I knew I was being irrational. But emotions don't follow logic. Why do you always act like we only exist when no one else is around? I asked when we got back to the room. Miles froze. What do you mean? I took a deep breath. You never let me be part of your world. I'm always on the sidelines. Mitchell, I've told you, Miles said, his voice starting to strain. I'm not ready yet. What about me? I shot back. How long do I have to wait? The question hung in the room. Miles turned away, hands braced on the desk. I don't know, he said softly. And I hate that you're making me choose. Those words hurt more than I expected. I stepped back, as if pushed away. I'm not making you choose, I said, my voice trembling. I just want to know what I mean to you. Miles turned back to look at me. There was deep exhaustion in his eyes. You mean a lot. So much. But that doesn't make my fear go away. That night, Miles didn't stay. He left after a brief hug, leaving me alone in the quiet room. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, and for the first time wondered if the one night that changed our friendship was a mistake. In the days that followed, we kept our distance. No one said goodbye, but no one reached out either. I tried to focus on school, essays, discussions. But Miles was everywhere, in every corner of memory, every small habit. I decided to do what I'd always avoided. Be absolutely honest. I texted Miles, asking to meet at the place we first met. The old library, with its wooden shelves and soft yellow lights. When Miles arrived, I was already sitting, heart pounding. He looked tense but didn't avoid my eyes. I don't want to lose you, I said as soon as he sat down. But I can't keep being in a relationship where I have to hide my feelings, hide my own existence. Miles was silent. I saw him swallow hard. I need to know, I continued, my voice quiet but firm. If you can step into the light with me, not right away, but someday. Miles closed his eyes for a moment, as if battling himself. When he opened them, I knew the answer before he spoke. I can't yet, Miles said. Not because I don't want to, but because I'm afraid I'll lose everything. I nodded. Strangely, I didn't cry. Maybe because I'd prepared for this moment for a long time. Then maybe, I said slowly, we should stop, before we both get hurt more. Miles looked at me, panicked. Mitchell, I love you, I said. For the first time, I voiced it. And that's why I can't keep going like this. No one said another word. We sat there, facing each other amid the silent shelves, like two strangers who once knew each other well. When Miles left, I stayed for a long time. I thought about that one night, the first kiss, everything we'd had and couldn't keep. I wondered if our original friendship had any chance of returning, or if everything had changed forever. I didn't know what the future held. I only knew that sometimes, loving someone isn't enough to keep them, but it's enough to teach you how to let go. After the conversation in the library, my life fell into a strangely quiet state. No climax, no clear tragedy, just the absence of Miles in every small detail. The seat next to me in class empty. Goodnight texts gone. I stopped the habit of glancing at my phone with every notification, knowing it wouldn't be him. I thought I'd break down. But no, I was just persistently sad. Winter came quickly. Snow blanketed the campus, making everything clean and distant. I walked alone between familiar buildings, realizing I tied too many memories to one person. Miles was everywhere, and nowhere. We didn't cut ties completely. Occasionally, we'd run into each other in hallways in the cafeteria. We'd greet each other, polite and cautious, like two people who were once close but no longer knew where to stand in each other's lives. Each time, my heart twisted, but I didn't look back. I started spending more time on myself. Writing, running, joining a small creative writing club, something I'd always wanted but delayed because I was afraid without Miles by my side. I met new people, heard new stories. I didn't forget Miles, but I learned not to let the memories drown me. Then one night, near the end of the semester, I got a message from him. "Mitchell, can you meet me? I'm ready to talk." I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to refuse, to protect the fragile peace I'd built. But the other part, the part that had loved Miles deeply, knew that some conversations, if skipped, would leave lasting regret. We met at the small coffee shop near campus, where we used to study late. Everything was the same, only we had changed. Miles looked thinner, but his eyes, clearer. "I've thought a lot," Miles said after a silence. "About us. About me." I didn't interrupt. I let him speak. "I was scared," he continued. "Scared of losing my family. Scared of losing the image everyone has of me. But when you left, I realized I'd already lost something. And I don't want to lose more." I looked at Miles, my heart slowing, surprisingly calm. "You don't owe me anything," I said. "Miles, I'm not meeting you to hear a promise." "I know," he replied. "I just want you to know that night wasn't a mistake. You're not a phase. You're the one who made me understand who I am." Those words didn't pull me back, but they closed a wound I'd carried for a long time. "I appreciate that," I said, smiling lightly. "Really, we didn't get back together. No movie ending. But we didn't return to being friends like before either. Instead, we stood in a different place, one of understanding, respect, and a more mature affection. As we left the coffee shop, Miles hugged me. A slow, firm hug no longer lost. "Thank you," he whispered. I nodded. "Thank you for being honest." That one night had changed our friendship. It brought love, desire, hurt, and growth. I'd once wished things had gone differently, but now I understood. Not every love story needs a perfect ending to be meaningful. Some people enter your life only for a short time but leave a lifelong mark. Miles was that person, and I, Mitchell, had learned that sometimes the bravest thing isn't holding on, but loving fully, then letting go at the right moment.